Secretary Tom Price, former Secretary of Health and Human Services, former Congressman of the 6th District. Tom Price served as my congressman for, 20 years when I lived in Roswell. He did a fabulous job and was always very accessible and all-around great guy. Plus, I coached his son in baseball in Little League many, many years ago. Now his son's a big star, but that was the old time. Mr. Secretary, great to have you with us.
Great to be with you, John. Thanks ever so much. I'm not sure how well those baseball teams did, though, as I recall.
We didn't always do very well, but the kids always had
they had fun.
Kids always had fun. I remember I used to bat your son 5th or 6th, and he was a pretty good hitter back then. This is a long time ago.
Charitable.
I mean, I don't even know.
You're being charitable.
Yeah, you see, he was a good hitter. I think it was like 10 and under, 11 and under, 12 and under, or something.
That's right.
Anyway, it was a very long time ago.
Great times.
Yes,
yep.
it certainly, and you and Betty would always come out and watch him play, so it was always kind of
and
fun.
We didn't yell at you. We just let you.
I know you were the good parents. And I saw you the other day, and the Keep America tour. We're doing this socialized medicine. If these two Democratic senators win, and McConnell gets control, healthcare, Mr. Secretary, what will happen?
Well, you mean Schumer gets control?
Schumer gets control.
If Schumer gets control, then healthcare goes further in the wrong direction. We've got costs going up, choices going down, quality, I would argue, is being compromised significantly, and certainly affordability is a challenge. So if Senators Loefler and Perdue in the great state of Georgia don't win re-election, then we move completely in the wrong direction and toward a single-payer system. Remember, Biden has said he wants to improve and support and expand Obamacare. Well, that's moving in the wrong direction. We need to move in the direction of patient-centered health care, which is what part of our Keep America bus tour is all about.
If Schumer gets control and we go to a single-payer system, and I've got, let's say I'm a resident of Georgia or resident of the country, and I've got a private health insurance plan, what will happen to me?
Well, it's tough to say because the specifics aren't out there, and they certainly wouldn't say so. But there are some in their party, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and others, and certainly individuals who have joined the administration. Javier Becerra, who's been nominated as the incoming HHS secretary, are supporters of single-payer system, which means that the way that most of us get our health coverage through our employer, 175, 180 million Americans get their health coverage through their employers, that would go away. Now, it'd be phased out for sure if they did this, but their goal is to put the government in charge of all of this, which is exactly, again, the wrong direction. The countries that have government in charge, some of them in the Western world have some significant quality in terms of their health care, but they decide who gets it. And that means that if you're, for example, in Oregon, which has adopted part of this system for their Medicaid program, if you're over a certain age, you aren't even eligible for treatment for certain problems because the state has decided that you're not eligible. That's the wrong entity making those decisions. Medical decisions ought to be between patients and families and doctors and nobody else.
If these two senators, if the two Democrats win and Loefler and Perdue do not win, and right now all the polls are showing it's tied, which is much to our chagrin, but so it's going to be very, very close. You're going to lose your health care. That's going to be the first thing they do, and they're going to force everybody into this cattle prod system where you really don't have any control over your own health. If Biden indeed takes the oath of office, what is going to be the Republican alternative to this? Obviously, they can stop the single-payer system because they then have a majority in the Senate. But is there an alternative plan?
Well, sure. And both Senator Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue have introduced a program that outlines their principles. And the reason that it's difficult for folks on the right, conservatives, to articulate exactly what the plan is because we don't believe big government ought to have a plan for health care that incorporates everybody. We believe that, again, that those decisions ought to be between patients and families and doctors. So increasing choices, so that you get an array of options for your health coverage, so that if you want a short-term plan, you can buy a short-term plan. If you want a high-deductible catastrophic plan with a health savings account, you ought to be able to get that. If you want a comprehensive medical plan, you ought to be able to get that as well. We just don't believe the government ought to be deciding it. Lower costs for individuals with a conservative plan, with a Republican plan, because you get greater competition, you get more choices, and when you get more choices and greater competition, prices are driven down. And then higher quality, because you decrease the amount of regulatory burden that's currently in place. Physicians and other folks in the healthcare arena are suffering under this incredible burden of healthcare regulation. Some of it important, absolutely, without a doubt, but much of it is simply to measure something that the bean counters think is important to measure when it has nothing to do with the quality of healthcare being delivered. So increasing transparency is important. Accountability is important. Increasing telemedicine or virtual medicine, all the kinds of innovations that come about in a system that is accredited to patients and physicians, but not government. Government gets in the way of those kinds of things because it moves poorly. It's not flexible, and it certainly doesn't have inertia moving in the right direction.
John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're with former Secretary of Health and Human Services Tom Price, also former Congressman, Chairman of the Study Committee back in the day. So Secretary Price, Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue, they've signed off on a healthcare initiative called Healthcare for You. Anybody wants to look it up, we've been talking about it forever. Go to healthcareforyou.com. They've actually signed off on that. I know you've been an advocate of that. The Job Creators Network has developed that. The White House has seen it. They were enthusiastic about it. Can you go in detail? Is that something that McConnell and the Republicans can put forward if we can win these two seats?
Yeah, in fact, healthcareforyou.com, and I would urge folks to go to healthcareforyou.com to see what the specifics are. But the answer to that is yes, that it can certainly be put forward, and parts of it have been. So you've got Dr. Bill Cassidy, who's a senator from Louisiana, and Dr. John Barrasso, who's a senator from Wyoming, and others who have put forward the kinds of freeing, the opening up of our healthcare system, the expansion to allow, again, patients and families and doctors to make decisions. They've been proposing these things. We were in the House for a long, long time. And again, that's why it becomes difficult for folks on the right to argue about policy, because the left has an easy job. All they do is say, we want the government to control your health care. Now, they don't say it in those words, but that's what they mean. Right. So Medicare for all means government control of your health care. It takes 3 seconds to say that. In order to say what needs to be done, which is thoughtful, logical, methodical, appropriate decision-making in the healthcare arena, again, between patients and families and doctors, that takes a longer period of time to say, and it's not as sexy as saying Medicare for all.
Yeah, which is just, it just sounds good. It's just easier to say it, but everywhere it's been tried, it fails, and so they want to do it again. And the other thing is, one of the things they haven't talked about is the number of healthcare workers that would be put out of a job. I mean, isn't it in the millions?
Well, depending on what they do, obviously their desire, the left's desire, is to have a jobs program for everybody, so that everybody's dependent on the government. So, right. Being put out of a job, the folks that would be put out of a job are the innovators. The folks that would be put out of a job are the folks that are devising the latest and the greatest. I chuckle at our friends on the left who rejoice that we've got this vaccine now. Well, the vaccine came about because of a public-private partnership. Wouldn't have happened without the private sector. Wouldn't have happened without those evil, according to the left, those evil pharmaceutical companies who did their doggonedest and put their shoulder to the wheel to make certain that we could get this in a record time, historic, absolutely historic. And of course, the left doesn't want to talk about that. That's a success of the private sector that's been front and center over the last year.
Mr. Secretary, what do you think of the vaccine? We're with former Health and Human Services Secretary, Cabinet Secretary Tom Price, Dr. Tom Price, former Congressman, Georgia's 6th District. So, what do you think of the vaccine? The fact that warp speed, I mean, it's come about in a lightning fast amount of time. Now it's being actually distributed out to healthcare workers. As a former physician looking at it, what is your take on the vaccine? And do you have any concerns about how fast it came from development to market, sir?
Well, it's important to step back and just assess what has happened. This is truly historic. These kinds of new medications for a new disease, usually take years to come online. So this is incredibly exciting. All Americans can be proud of the work that was done, and we ought to be congratulating everybody who was involved in it, and understand and appreciate there will be many vaccines. The distribution is going to be a challenge, and we can talk about that if you like. But in terms of the vaccine itself, the FDA has assured, and I trust the findings that they have made, and that is that this vaccine is safe and effective. Effective being about 95% in effective for halting the spread in an individual who takes the vaccine of the virus itself, of getting sick. Now, remember that the threshold that the FDA put out there at the beginning of the year when this happened in February and March was 50%. They said they would approve something that was at least 50% effective. So effective it is, there's no doubt about it. And in terms of safety, we know that from the thousands of individuals that were tested in the phase 3 trials for both the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine, that the vast majority of individuals have minimal side effects and don't have any significant problems. Now, that doesn't mean that in the long term that there may not be problems that arise. And that's what you give up when you have something come to market this quickly. Normally, they test these things for years, literally years, so that they see and determine that there aren't long-term consequences. But because of the disease itself, killing so many Americans and individuals around the world, that's why they call this an emergency use authorization. This is for an emergency. We're in the throes of this pandemic. And so it is incredibly important to get as many individuals vaccinated as possible so that you stop the community transmission of this virus.
John Fredericks Radio Network. We're with former cabinet member, Secretary Dr. Tom Price. Dr. Price, you never lost an election. I was thinking about this earlier when I got up today and I was looking at my schedule. I'm like, all right, here's a guy in Georgia. He never lost an election. Ran for state senate. I remember you ran You upset some guy from Cobb County. I can't even think of his name. He had a dog in his ads or something. He was the favorite. He was a big favorite. What was that guy's name?
He was.
I can't think of his name.
Robert Lamoot.
Lahoot, right. He had the dog in the ad. He was a big favorite. And then, of course, we voted for you because we wanted a Roswell guy. And so, and you were our doctor, right? So obviously we're going to vote for our doctor. So you win that, and then you go on to win your state senator. You win all those races. Then you run for Congress. You win that primary. Then you win that. You win all your elections. What is your message to Senator Perdue and Senator Loefler? They got 3 weeks. There's a lot of shenanigans going on that we've got to overcome. What is your message to them? What do they have to do to win?
But you've got, whenever you're running for office, it's imperative that you connect with people where the people are, and so you've got to identify those concerns that folks have. And when I talk to people out here in our great state of Georgia, many of them will say, "Look, I'm not interested in having one party in charge in Washington ever again." They've seen the results of that from their perspective, and they don't want one party in charge. So the checks and balances that our founders brilliantly put into our system are incredibly important. So the first thing that I would say is for Senators Perdue and Loefler is to make certain that you're touching that base, touching that imperative, that principle of folks, to say we need a Republican majority in the U.S. Senate because we need to be able to counter some of the crazy things that could come out and will come out of the Biden administration. And divided government oftentimes gets more sober reflection in terms of policy. Second, healthcare is near and dear to my heart. It's near and dear to virtually everybody out there. The last thing we need is government-run medicine. And in order to ensure that doesn't happen, Senator Loefler and Senator Perdue will make certain that we move in a better direction in terms of healthcare. And then finally, economy and jobs. Prior to this pandemic, we had the greatest economy that this country has ever seen, and there are ways to get back to that. The ways to get back to that are put people in charge who know how to create jobs, who know what it means to decrease the regulatory burden on businesses large and small. That's Senator Loefler and Senator Perdue. That's not their opponents, who candidly have not been in favor of the kinds of free enterprise and economic system that creates so many jobs and allows individuals to thrive and realize their dreams. So checks and balances, healthcare and economy and jobs, and I think that's how you connect with folks. And you got to get out there and grassroots. You got to get out there and see people. You got to get out there and touch people. You got to let them know that you care about their lives. And I think Kelly and David are doing a whale of a job about it. And I'm really impressed with what they're doing on the ground here in Georgia.
Well, I know that you're part of that effort. You go around on the bus tour that we have. Keep America has been very, very effective, and healthcareforyou.com. Healthcareforyou.com has been effective. And so I want to thank you for that. A lot of people I was talking to the other day after you spoke in Alpharetta, a couple people came to me and said, "Hey, do you think Tom will run for governor in 2022?" And I'm like, I don't know. Then I was thinking about it last evening, and I'm like, well, he never lost an election. And, when you talk about connecting with people, I mean, I just remember being in Roswell when you were the congressman. Yeah, like you were everywhere, and you were very accessible. I mean, you would have these breakfasts and all kinds of stuff. You were very accessible to everybody, and I think that was part of the reason why you were so successful and so popular, is because people could just talk to you, and Of course you're a doctor, so you have the bedside manner thing going. We all know that, but you were accessible, and I think that's what people want. So maybe we'll see a Tom Price for governor in 2022. Could that possibly happen?
Oh, I think not. I think that my electoral days are over. I suspect. Betty and I are enjoying what we're doing. I'm continue to be extremely active in the healthcare arena and very excited about many of the individuals that I'm trying to help in that area. So the things have changed so much; it's gotten so divisive. It's just very, very sad. So, but I hope to continue to be a positive voice for real solutions out there. Solutions that respect our history and our founding principles and allow individuals greater opportunity to realize their dreams. That's what this country is all about, is to allow individuals to have dreams and then go to work and realize them and make it easier as opposed to harder to do that.
All right, Congressman. Secretary Tom Price, thank you for being with us. Go to healthcareforyou.com. You can learn more there, healthcareforyou.com. By the way,
Thanks, John.
Been embraced by Loefler and Perdue, healthcareforyou.com. Mr. Secretary, great to have you with us, sir. Great
Thanks
to catch
so much.
up.
Merry Christmas to you. God bless.